We always knew they were coming for Star Wars, the very foundations that make the franchise special. It wasn't enough to just go after Luke Skywalker, not enough to go over the prophecies of Anakin, how he was the chosen one. No, indeed, now they are going for the very force that drives the fervor for Star Wars itself. That's right, the Force. They literally want to change the Force. And what do they want to change it to? What does the Acolyte intend to do to the Force? Well, they want to make it a postmodern power struggle. All right, folks, welcome back to another wonderful day here on the WDW Pro channel. It is wonderful because you're here with us. And we're so excited to get to share our thoughts with you regarding the Acolyte, regarding Star Wars, and what Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, and the rest of the crazies over there at Lucasfilm all want to do to our beloved franchise. Stop beating it! It's dead! Joining us, and they're definitely not dead, they're definitely very much alive, Jonas J. Campbell of That Part Place, and the script doctor of everything script doctoring. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, good to be here.
All right, well, let's dive in.
Are we talking
ahead,
about? Are we talking about asexual midichlorians?
That would be less terrifying than actually what we're going to be discussing today. And this comes to us via our very good friend and co-collaborator on That Part Place, John F. Trent, over there on boundingintocomics.com. Folks, if you don't have Bounding Into Comics bookmarked on your favorite browser, well, you're missing out on tons of great content. Here's what he says. The Acolyte trailer declares this isn't about good or bad. It's about power and who's allowed to use it. Yes, it is a postmodern anthem now, straight out of this leaked trailer. It says, the leaked trailer of The Acolyte, which appears to be from Star Wars Celebration in April, features a line of dialogue that declares, this isn't about good or bad, it's about power and who's allowed to use it. That is straight up, folks, that is 100% postmodern trope, or tripe, depending on how you view it. The trailer was recently uploaded to the Star Wars subreddit and can be seen below. Now, we're not going to show it, folks, because, well, the House of Mouse would love to be given any possibility or reason to take us down, and we shall not give it to them. We shan't! As you can see above, it features a Jedi Master teaching a number of younglings about the Force, telling them, your eyes can deceive you. You must not trust them. The Force is powerful. It is power we must respect. The explanation is bizarre, given how Yoda, who is still alive and seemingly a prominent figure in the Jedi Order at the time this show is supposed to take place, had a very different view of the Force as he related to Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. Here's what Yoda said, which would be, therefore, what George Lucas had to say about the Force. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. We must feel the Force around you, here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship.
Great.
So
line.
Yoda, yes, and so and that also speaks to what would you say? Something transcendent within the Star Wars franchise, something perhaps of divine nature, something that is of a spiritual quality, or something that is beyond mere materialism, and perhaps that is what caused originally Star Wars to have even more of a fan base as people were seeking to find something more in their own lives. However, it is now being moved into something that is about a power struggle. That's no surprise. Script Doctor, you've spent quite a bit of time with writers out of Hollywood. Are you shocked at all to see Star Wars now moving into what looks to be sort of postmodern storytelling with this tale?
I'm a little bit shocked. It's not normally the first idea that a lot of experienced writers would go to. In my opinion, when you're exploring postmodernism as maybe the forefront of a story, you're kind of hitting some low-hanging fruit. Postmodernism is quite fun to write about, but you have to come at it from a multitude of angles so that you actually explore what it means and what it has to do and how that pertains to the theme. In this case here, well, I definitely would say using the Force as a form of power and power struggle is not really foreign to Star Wars. The approach, as depicted by Leslye Headland in her interview, bears some questions that need to be addressed when it comes to the perspective of the Force wielders and those that wish to abuse the power. I'm not sure what direction she's trying to really go here. And that's what causes me some pause.
Yeah, for the sake of just definitionally, when we say postmodern, are we talking about a post-rational, post-good and bad, as in like there is some concept of gray morality, and therefore in this we're talking about the Jedi and the Sith, which this is, I suppose.
Yeah, so thank you, Jonas, for that, because the audience, there's an assumption that we all know what postmodern means, but it has different connotations. And so what I mean by postmodern here is that it seems to me that they are expressing a belief, and by the way, the quote comes from a hero inside the show, but the belief that there is neither good nor bad, that those are subjective, not objective, moral and ethical truths, and rather that life is about gaining power or lacking power and the pursuit of power. And so life is not about transcendent truth. Life is about the ability to rise up in the hierarchy above others.
It's basically entertaining the idea of might is right, and those that have power clearly deserve it, and therefore should be given the benefit of its use. That's a very evil thing, because that's counterintuitive to say another type of philosophy, one that's a bit more based in not necessarily communism, but like I'm talking about like collective, like a joint understanding between people across a society, which is there's no real right or wrong. There's only perspective, and the perspective is what determines what is really right or wrong. And that's kind of what it's there. It's like we figure out what is good and evil based on our perspectives, based on our experiences and what we care and show about. And however, and there's a differentiation. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here, but it can sometimes lead to different perspectives when you see different cultures, because one culture might have a different view of what is just versus another culture. Doesn't mean both of them are right or wrong, but it does mean that if they want to work together, they have to reconcile. And that's kind of more into the area of points of view that Star Wars was a theme of Star Wars is that the Jedi weren't ones that wanted to use the Force to attack or control or anything. They wanted to bring justice, and they did that through their points of view, which is a big lesson that was brought up in Return of the Jedi.
Right.
And counter to that, the dark side is basically saying, no, the Force is a weapon, and it has destructive power, not just of the user itself when it is abused, but also in what they can do to others in relation to like what Darth Vader was doing and what Emperor Palpatine was doing. So you got to see that dichotomy there. This one here, based on that quote and that perspective with what has been leaked in the trailer, it seems that they're trying to really oversimplify it and run with it as almost like a form of preaching of a message, as opposed to one that's exploring questions and guiding you on a more moral basis that the original trilogy was. And then instead of that, they're kind of bringing it over into more gray zone. And that kind of breaks apart the wonderful fairy tale fantasy element that Star Wars had, because
right.
The light and dark is very strongly portrayed, and it's abstractly portrayed in Star Wars. I think there's room for nuance, but I think this fundamentally changes the idea of the Force, that there's a light side and a dark side, and rather this takes it out of the area of ethics or virtue and places it squarely into the domain of power. I want to read a quote to you all from Leslye Headland. This is from an interview she gave regarding the Acolyte and how she saw her path towards navigating Star Wars. This is what she had to say. She said, "When I was a young queer girl, I was just hanging out with Ursula the Sea Witch," talking about from The Little Mermaid. "As a queer girl growing up, if you don't identify with the heroes and the villains show up and they're all queer coded, you're like, yes, that's me." She goes on to say, "As a filmmaker in that vein, you're going to see some camp inevitably, but I would say that tonally, our references will be darker with the Acolyte." She says that just because my show is technically female-centric, meaning it centers around a female protagonist, I don't think that necessarily excludes men from that space. And she says, continuing, "Listen, I relate to male characters all the time. I like to root for Mando. I like Luke. I like deeply, deeply well. Not sure how much I care about Han Solo anymore. When I was little, I really liked him. When I watch him now, I'm kind of like, gosh, a lot of my psyche makes sense now.
Yeah.
Okay. She goes on and on about talking about men and women and gender ideology. And, you know, it's just interesting to me that of all the people that Lucasfilm could have selected to be in charge of a show such as this, they chose someone who has been entangled with some of the darkest individuals in the history of Hollywood. We're talking about, well, we'll just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that, lest we flag YouTube.
The former head of Miramax, we'll say that.
Which kind of
Right.
also goes further into the whole power thing. Those that have power and those that lust for it. I mean, Leslye Headland's connections gave her a lot of power. She pitched this show at a time when Disney publicly said, we are not taking any pitches right now because they're figuring out what they're going to do with the pandemic, and their box office and streaming numbers were not performing at the target rates. And yet she was able to get this very show put into production. And it's
why do you think that is, though? Why would Disney want to be associated with her?
Well, reputation is another form of currency in Hollywood, and even if her reputation has a lot of darkness to it, it still offers a lot of connection, offers a lot of clout with certain players within that system, and I think they felt that would be beneficial to them. Now, with regards to her quote where she's talking about how she was able to relate to Ursula because of her own personal preferences, that raises an eyebrow because I don't know many children who are not normally.
That's what I thought, Script.
Relate to that. I mean, even the ones that I know that happen to be of that persuasion would never think to relate to Ursula in that matter.
Right. I mean, you talk about diabolical. Parents out there, if your child begins role-playing Ursula or any other major villain from their shows, if they have no desire to role-play the heroes and they just want to play the villain, it's time to have some sit-downs.
Well, I would also say that Little Mermaid, as far as moral paragons go, the Little Mermaid does not have a lot of great lessons about good and evil. I suppose Eric is a good guy. Triton and Ariel, they make a lot of bad decisions in the case of service of self. There's nobody in there that is completely morally in the clear in that movie, in that Disney version of that story. And the Grimm's the Hans Christian Andersen obviously ends much more darkly than the Disney version. But I mean, obviously, I referenced Lion King on the last Pro Show. That one has a lot better lessons on morality.
If your child is role playing Scar and that's their hero versus Simba or Mufasa, like if your child is obsessed with Scar, you may be creating a future Disney writer that will spring forth a postmodern tale of the Force that none of us want. So please stop it while you can.
Right. Please stay away from all these stories where even the heroes have so many flaws and never really learn their lesson, but still get their way.
I would say that's a child crying for help, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Totally.
Very good.
So, Jonas, our Star Wars fans about to be crying for help, the few who remain. I do want to bring it back to this female-centric thing. I am all in favor of female heroes. I love Princess Leia in terms of the way that she is presented in the original trilogy. She is a princess who does not need saving. She needs you to unlock the door, and then she is fine saving herself. And I think that was a wonderful representation for women. But when it comes to what Star Wars has become under Kathleen Kennedy, it feels obsessed with female empowerment to the point that it's become a caricature of itself.
Right. As well as overly focused on power. If the moral of the story is not good and evil, it's who holds the power, then that is not going to last long. That feeds into narcissism. If the moral of your story is, well, as long as the people we like have the power, it's fine, that's very lacking from a moral standpoint.
And it also ignores the fact that, yes, it ignores the fact that if we are happy with these people having power, then we should give them as much power as possible, completely ignoring the idea that if they lose that power and someone evil comes in to occupy that space, they will have those same authorities or privileges that the others have provided to them. It's basically not understanding the responsibility of what such power means. I would be very surprised if the show actually had that as a thematic lesson in there with regards to responsibility and power and why it must require discipline. I don't know. Having seen Leslye Headland's other works and having read some of her other scripts, I don't know if she or the team that she has put together has that level of nuance or understanding about that subject matter.
Well, I'll tell you this. With the show Ahsoka, Lauren, Connor, and I have come together for many episodes to review those episodes. And almost every time, Lauren comes to me and says, if they do it this way, and if this is what this means, and if da-da-da-da, and we go through this list, and we say, if that's the case, then they're setting this up for an amazing show, and we'll come back and we'll take it all back, and we'll say, never mind, they had it right. They really did go for all the gusto. And then what inevitably happens is that by the next episode or two, we come back and we say, no, folks, they chose the worst possible. They chose the lowest denominator. They went for the lowest hanging fruit. There was nothing to this story at all. It's even worse than we could have imagined. It's just, terrible writing. And so I'm kind of tired of giving Star Wars any benefit of the doubt. I don't even want to pursue the idea of, well, maybe Leslye Headland and her team, they will come up with, telling this story. It's like, no, they've proven time and time again that they don't understand narrative. They don't understand the foundations of narrative or what makes the hero's journey interesting. Script, I'll toss you and Jonas the final word opportunity here, but I think folks are getting really tired. If we look at the ratings for Ahsoka, they are not sufficient for the investment levels here. And I can only imagine that the Acolyte, if it transforms the Force into a postmodern reimagining, if it goes back into another female empowerment story, I just think people are tired now. I don't think they can handle what is becoming propagandized Star Wars storytelling.
It won't survive because with the recent WGA agreement and the performance-based residuals, which I believe Acolyte will qualify for because it's premiering in the new year, they are going to learn from the audience directly that their show is either going to work or not work.
Can I just pause you right there, Script?
Yes,
folks out there listening, that is an incredible, fantastic point. Script, thank you for bringing that up. Explain to the folks out there this ad and residual change that's coming and how that will impact shows like The Acolyte. That amazing point.
Well, with regards to the newest contract that the WGA has signed with the studios, there is now a performance-based residual model in place for streaming shows. That performance-based says that if you have if your show retains 20% of the domestic subscriber viewership over the course of the first 90 days, you get this X amount of number on residuals, and the higher that is, the larger the residual will be for the writing team. So now what we end up having here is a contract with the studios and the writers that puts the power in the audience to decide how much their now dollar really impacts the product with which they watch. At no point in history does the audience have more power than it does right now with regards to that model. And if the team on The Acolyte really wants to make the most money off their show, they're going to have to start writing things that people want to see, and also take note to what worked on the show from the audience reception and what doesn't work on the show. And ideally, for the benefit of the audience, they will learn that lesson and revamp the show for the following season to better fit the genre and better fit the expectations of the audience. And if they can't do that, they're not going to have a show anymore. And those writers are going to have to start finding new jobs, and hopefully they will learn from that experience. And if they don't, they will no longer be working in the industry.
And in this case, I have to say that I'm all in favor of that sort of power, because it's power that's not vested in a single individual. It's not power that is meritless and based on which narrative you can trick people with, but rather it's power in that there are vast numbers of people rank ordering and choosing what they will spend their time with, time being the most precious commodity one has. And thereby, I believe in that sort of power. I'm all for the marketplace determining what's successful and what's not. Jonas, final word on this one before we wrap up.
Oh, no, you all said it better than I ever could. I'm looking forward to seeing this show. I think there's a small chance that the dialogue will probably be better than Ahsoka. I will say that because Dave Filoni.
You're saying that there's going to be
not one of his strengths.
They're not just going to stare at each other for long periods of time with slight emotional.
Hopefully,
that,
although I do think we'll be seeing more forced karate. No, I think you all said it well, so I'm going to bow.
Well, let's hope, Jonas, that the
opinion.
lightsabers actually have some sort of effect this time. It seems that lightsabers have become a weapon that only does damage if you are A, male, and B, on a bridge. So we'll see how that goes. All right, Script Doctor, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
You can find me on Twitter X at ScriptDoctorPhD. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/ScriptDoctor, and a Patreon where I cover screenplay reviews, writing tips, and also my musings on the industry at hand. So you can go check out all those things with those links associated with me.
Script, I have a feeling you're about to be very busy in the near future.
Me too.
Jonas, where can we find you?
You can find me, of course, on my channel, Jonas J. Campbell. But what you probably really want to check out is the That Park Place YouTube channel, where we do a daily news countdown. And things are going really well there. In fact, we might be making some announcements soon about some expansions to the channel. And we've got a lot of great contributors. Hey, Script Doctor might be even showing up soon. So looking forward to that.
Very exciting. And folks, don't forget also, as we continue to expand based on the success that you all provide, yes, indeed, we are going to be sending out surveys soon where we are going to find out what members of this channel would like to receive in terms of even more services. We intend to give you the very best value that we can. Folks, we will be doing the cues from you from last week soon. We have not forgotten about them. We will get to them, we promise. And we also promise to continue endeavoring to explain entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do. We love it. We like it. And if you like content like that, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you do indeed stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. The conversation here has come to a close, but the commentary begins. Drop a comment down below. We covet your comments. We care about what you think. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not and drop a comment right down there. All right, folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Cuz you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?